What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassidy. Welcome to Nightmare Success In and Out Podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares to set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys and girls I was in Leavenworth with and others who served at other prisons. We're going to be talking about life before prison, life in prison, and life out of prison. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that will help you knock down some of the prisons you've built up in your own mind. So I said girls because this is the second girl that I have had on. You wouldn't know because some people refer to her as Sam. Samantha Lander, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So we were just catching up before we got on here. You have lived a journey of a life, haven't you?
A little bit, I would say.
So your thing all happened in LA and things got crazy, but I want to take it like a step back because it sounds like that you grew up in St. Louis and Clayton. Am I right about that?
Yep, you're correct.
Tell me, what was life like for little Sam back then?
Little Sam. I grew up in Webster actually, and
love Webster Groves. We lived there for 6 years. Yeah,
I'm back here now, so that's where I live now. And then we eventually moved to Clayton. My life was pretty. I don't really have any. My mom loves to really be like, well, what did I do wrong and all that stuff. But really, I definitely have some family stuff, but nothing to the degree of where I should have the trauma where I'm going to go use drugs and sell drugs and be totally out of control. That's really my own decision. I had a pretty good childhood growing up. I had, all the things I wanted and needed, probably more than most. My dad was a successful doctor and my mom was a teacher and an artist. She eventually was a stay-at-home mom. She's still an artist. She does very kind of off the beaten path art.
Okay.
So she's not worried so much about selling it, which is great, but she does her thing and raised us, which raising kids, I can't even imagine just doing that as a sole job. I mean, I'm kind of doing that, but it's really hard for me. I'd rather work. And, life was good.
Siblings?
I have a brother. I have an older brother, 3 years older than me.
Okay.
So I had that. I had cousins that were around, a lot of friends. High school wasn't probably the easiest. Middle school and high school were challenging for me. Maybe I might have made it that way. I don't know. I was always friends with everyone.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a niche.
Kind of a pleaser? Were you a pleaser friend? Yeah, doing everything for everybody?
No.
Not
Probably
that.
not.
Not that at all.
Kind of like the entertainment friend, but I was friends with I remember there were the skaters and then the preppy people and I just was friends with everyone. Cause in my neighborhood, I'm over by, so there's, I don't even know, different districts, school districts. So I was kind of in the neighborhood where it was a lower income and a little grittier kind of families. And that's kind of where we were, the friends that I had there. And then I was friends with some of the preppier people as I went into Clayton because, my brother was in Clayton and I was friends with his friends, younger kids, siblings. It's kind of.
Well, for any of those that don't know that are not in the St. Louis area, Clayton is a very nice, I think one of the best public school districts in the state of Missouri. So it's looked upon highly. And did you play sports? Because I know you're into all kinds of fitness.
I did. I did synchronized swimming for about 7 years.
That looks impossible, by the way.
Underwater basket weaving. I did synchronized swimming for 7 years. And then eventually, swimming, I was a swimmer. In high school, I swam. I played water polo. And eventually, I got so burnt out with swimming, I started rowing. I did a year of field hockey, but I got mono, and that's how I got into rowing. So I had to play a no-contact sport. And then rowing was sort of my thing. I was the number one rower in the U.S. For the varsity crew.
Wow. Back up on that. What was that?
Yeah, I was a state swimmer. So, yeah.
Wow.
Did it all. Yeah.
So did you do that Did you continue to do that when you went to Michigan for college?
Well, so then I went to University of Michigan, and I didn't get a scholarship, but that's when the women's team was just Division One.
Okay.
So it went from club to Division One. So I lived in Michigan. It was cold as all hell. And getting up at 5 a.m. to go run, it didn't last very long. I made it a couple months, and then I was a coxswain for the men's team. And then, it got where, you need to make weight, you need to this. And I was just, putting on my freshman 15 and dating a football player. It just did not.
Didn't seem like the thing.
Eating like a football player, it just didn't really go well. So I was so fried by then. I mean, it's like a cult. All I did, growing up, it was hard. It was a hardcore sport for someone who was in high school. I mean, 2-a-days all the time. And so I basically quit that and just didn't really do anything athletic till probably, late junior year. That was that.
So did drug-wise, I'm sure by being in the sports that you run, you probably didn't have time for that because you were busy doing what you were doing, or did you just do everything?
I do. We can make time for anything. When I was really, really, really into rowing, in high school, my freshman year, I was out of control. And probably 8th grade. I mean, 8th grade, I got caught smoking pot on our school field trip for graduation at Six Flags. So that was kind of the first.
That was big news, right?
And then freshman year, I just was out of control. I was running.
What were your parents' reaction to the Six Flags thing? Was that a big deal?
Awful.
Yeah,
it was bad. I mean, at that point, my brother was a little bit he was pretty wild too. So I was kind of, in my mind, I don't want to speak for him, but I thought he was kind of wild. I looked up to him big time. I want to do what he did. So I would hear these rumors of things he was doing, whether he was or not. That's his story. But I would try to do them, or I would do them, or all my friends were all older. And so that definitely was a disconnect too. It's my friend group as in my class. So all my friends were older. I've always hung out with older people. And I mean, I was, I probably was drinking in 7th grade, smoking pot in 8th grade. And then, 8th grade, when that happened, my mom read my diary. She was so worried about me. And so that created a massive conflict in our relationship for probably 20 years, really, really bad. I felt like she always wanted me to journal and write things down. And she it's like you're reading someone's mind. It's like,
right.
I don't know. It's pretty messed up. And that caused a lot of problems. I'll never forget that day. I was such an ass. She came to my door, my room, and I just told her she was like the scum on my bottom of my toilet. I think I spit on her. And then I ran away.
You ran away? You actually ran down the street?
To the friend's house. Yeah. Eventually my aunt's house.
Right.
But I mean, we were I was in therapy with them. I was getting breathalyzed. I was getting drug tested. My brother and I both.
What were you thinking though, Sam, as all that was happening? Were you thinking, oh my God, my parents are crazy? Or were you thinking, oh my God, do I have an issue?
I was thinking I want to live life to the fullest, and that's what that meant.
Yeah.
Which now I'm like, well, going and traveling and going and trying new experiences, living life to the fullest, not getting fucked up.
Right.
I have that addict mentality. It's in me, and that's what you do. And but I had a balance. After my freshman year of basically being a total delinquent, and then I was basically grounded for life. I had nothing. I had no car. Everything had been taken away. My parents had a rule book that was basically first, you slam the door, first offense, this happens. Second offense. It literally said first offense.
Very structured.
It was I was already had a little pre-prison.
Yeah.
It helped me a little bit. And I'm good with structure though, but I was home every weekend with them, and they controlled everything. And I think I just kind of gave it up. It was exhausting. I did my craziness and proved to myself that I could be crazy. I don't know. And I love fun. So it's kind of I'm a fun addict. You name it. And I just kind of gave it up to them. And that's when I got really into rowing. And I think I stopped. I think at that point I kind of cut back on everything. I drink like a normal teenager would on the weekends. And my grades, I went from a 2.3, and I think I graduated with a 4.0 and got into Michigan. So
wow.
I don't really know how that happened, but I did it.
Well, I think it's kind of to your personality, though. From what you're saying, you get addicted or obsessed, and you generate all your energy towards that. That sounds like probably what you did. You just all of a sudden said, "Okay, I'm going to lock in here," and all of a sudden you had these great grades.
Yeah, and I kind of like, I'm one of those, like, if I have this idea or this vision or this is what it's going to be, it's going to be. Like, I remember.
That's not a bad thing, though, Sam. I mean, it's just how you direct that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they say, like, the visualization and all that stuff, but I'll never forget, like, I moved to LA and my job kind of that's where it fell through. And I was kind of in the gay scene, hanging out with a lot of gay men. And I was going to these circuit parties with all these DJs. And I just, like, loved it. And I was like, I'm going to be a DJ. I want to be a DJ. And I had been promoting a vodka with, like, some of the top DJs in the world. And I've been meeting all them when I was in Michigan. And so
was that your connection to get out to LA, or did you have friends out there? Yeah.
Yeah.
The vodka thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it kind of all just worked out. My junior year of college, I started visiting a friend of mine out there, and that's where I met all these gay guys, and they were very safe. I just got on a really hard breakup, and that's kind of where I got into like the hard drugs, because I was actually, I don't think I was doing any drugs, and I was sober. I wouldn't say I like knew I was sober, but I just kind of stopped everything. I think I smoked pot, and I was teaching spinning, and I was like really got back into like athletics and working out after my sophomore year of college. So I started visiting out there, and then I was a nanny. I had like a million jobs at this point. I was such a hustler. I made so much money in college. Like I somehow got connected with like all the Michigan football coaches. Like I was babysitting all their kids, house sitting in their houses. I was a dog walker. I was like, you name it. I worked at like the Michigan Union, and I did like catering. I worked at a copy center.
Wow.
Crazy. Oh yeah. I loved to work.
You were college rich.
Yeah, I was. And and you don't have to claim any of it. And so I was, I claimed the stuff I was supposed to. I shouldn't say
right,
that.
Of course.
I guess I did my time for that, right?
Yeah, you did.
But I was house sitting for, or a nanny for a guy who owned this brewery called Local Color, and he made the first micro distilled vodka made in the U.S. It was the first flavored one before Absolute. So if this had happened, I would be like set for life. But the consumption and getting the bottles from China, so it was like it blew up. I was like on it, and this guy was just kind of like a rich kid who hid it home or had daddy. His dad invented Cascade bleach or something like that. So he just sort of had ideas and did it. But so it was huge in Michigan, and then I was supposed to move out to LA and work with the distributor to do that. I also have a family friend from Clayton whose house I was going to house sit when I moved out there. So I had living for free. I was living in Hollywood Hills because she was this actress that was off. She was filming The L Word. And so I had like this cush deal, and I got out there, and then the liquor deal fell through. And then that is when I bought the turntables and was like, that's where I had the vision. I was, well, it's a little bit before that, but I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to be one of the top female DJs in the town. Like, that's what's going to happen. I could like see myself on the stage in front of thousands of people, and I'm like, I'm doing this.
And you knew other people that were doing it, so it wasn't like it was.
Kind of, yeah, but these were like, I was just promoting them at like bars and stuff in Michigan.
Right.
But otherwise, I knew a few people. I didn't know like the big ones. Yeah. And I just got a job at an internship at Moonshine Records, which was like the record label that I wanted to get in on with the DJs that I loved. And I met a ton of people, and I started to learn how to produce music and just practice. And next thing you know, I'm playing at like the top clubs, and
that's very cool, Sam.
Yeah. So, but in the midst of it, I was also like full blown in the drug scene. So like I'm living out there. So I started selling drugs my junior year in college. And I would like bring them back from LA or get them shipped from LA. And then I would sell it to everybody. I was living with 11 guys at the time. I wouldn't necessarily say that I was selling it all to them, but
that's a lot of guys, Sam.
11 cocks in a box was our email.
That's a lot of guys.
It was a total
That's
frat
all.
house.
We don't have time to go through all that. 11 guys.
No, I did not hook up with one of them. I will say that. I'm very proud. Yeah, it was a lot of dudes. But it was actually, I lived with 14 girls my sophomore year, and that was even worse.
I bet.
Oh, the guys were great. Yeah. I'm great with guys. It was fun. Best year of my life. So then I end up in LA.
So wait, I want to know how, so when you got into this and things started taking off for you with the DJing, was it just because it was so easy that the drugs, you were in the clubs? I mean, was it just because it was just part of the scene that it just became easy? Did you get the easy connects and then you had the drugs and everybody likes you because you have the drugs, or what? How did that all happen?
So I kept it separate.
Okay.
So like if I went to like the gay clubs or whatever, like everyone knew they could get something from me or whatever like that. Like I kind of did, like I sold the little baggies of things and all the like, oh, here's 4 pills and here's that. But it was like exhausting, and then you're paranoid, and then you got to deal with like people come to your house all the time, and that makes you even more paranoid, and you're just like the traffic, and so that's kind of like, and I was one of my best friend was a drug dealer, so nobody really knew that was kind of my thing. It was sort of like that's my best friend, so I can get it from her.
Right.
And then, eventually, so the DJing, I actually started playing my bigger gigs in the straight scene, and none of them really knew that no one knew I was selling drugs in the straight scene. In the gay scene, everyone knew they could get whatever from me, but I wasn't DJing at that time in the straight scene. And then eventually, after just the wear and tear of all of it, I just basically had about 7 people that I sold mass quantities to, and that was all I did. So I just like narrowed it down. That was it. I didn't deal with, like, if my friends wanted something, I literally would just give it to them. I mean, there was so much.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. So that's kind
of. So it wasn't really, I mean, cause I'm assuming you were probably making pretty good money doing the DJing. I mean, if you were getting into the bigger clubs.
By the end, yeah. Oh yeah.
So was the drug part of it more of because you knew somebody that was a best friend, and was there like did you feel like you were trying to get out of it? Was it an adrenaline rush? And look, what was the?
No. So my drug of choice. So I was never like a very good drinker, per se. So I didn't drink at all. And in the gay scene, GHB is a big drug there. So it was like you could get drunk, not deal with all the bullshit that goes with drinking and needing something to be awake or not, whatever it was. And so I kind of got into that, and I was like, this is like the perfect drug for me. And then one day, so, I mean, that's kind of what I did. And then I remember it was a long weekend. I'd gone to visit my friend. I hadn't moved out there yet. And I had tried meth for the first time. And it was sort of like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to feel like. It was kind of weird. I mean, I was wide awake for days, so that was not the good part. But I was, something about it was like, I could think. It was really strange. I didn't get like that super high that people talk about, nothing like that. I actually ended up ODing that weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did that scare you? I mean, what was going through your mind on that?
Well, I was dead almost pretty much. But when I woke up, I had no idea where I was. And my friend, like I had like, just like my green, like shit, it was crazy. I don't know, green. Apparently I was like foaming at the mouth, and they were trying to resuscitate me. I had like massive bruises on my chest. So I woke up, and I got out. My flight was like that afternoon or like the next morning.
Do your parents know about this when this happened?
Yeah, I ended up telling them that I got roofied.
Okay.
At a party.
Okay.
I did not. Well, they didn't know. Now they know, but they didn't know then. I told them, I'm bullshit.
Probably thought it would have scared to death without them. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we even sent like a thank you basket to my friends for taking me to the hospital, which is like, now I'm like, what the fuck? Who does that? Like in the drug scene? Like, I was so like innocent. And I, that was the first time I tried meth, but then that was my drug of choice, like down the road. And I was self-medicating for ADD or ADHD. I mean, I've been prescribed all the drugs, never took them, hate the way they made me feel, but this one worked.
So you're saying it actually slowed you down and didn't speed you up?
Yeah. I mean, I was able to write 20-page papers and get like a honors on it or an A on it in Michigan. Like I just could I was able to freaking like process my thoughts and not be like all over.
That's interesting. And because a lot of people that talk about meth is that they take one puff of it and they're totally addicted and they lose themselves and go insane. You were actually functioning, and except for the fact that you almost died and OD'd on the first time you took it.
Yeah, I think that was just I hadn't slept in 3 days and I did too much. Who knows what that was? But people don't really. I don't know a lot of people once they blow themselves up that die from meth. Maybe if they shoot it up, but I don't feel like you hear as many of that stories like that as far as that drug, at least that I know of. I know a lot of people died of heroin. I mean, I have like 4 people this year or in the past 6 months that I'm close with that have died. So, GHB, I mean, possibly, but, I don't know. It's just different. I never shot it up. I don't know. It was basically self-medicating, and I mean, it made me numb and I lost my personality, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It just clicked, and that was it.
So Sam, tell me, because you got into all this and then you kind of drifted into this thing where you think you're kind of self-medicating. Is that the time when you get hit with the...
No, that was, I don't think I really realized what was happening until like I got sober and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what was happening. You know, you feel like, I remember it was like, if I fuck up any responsibilities, that's when I'm going to quit. Well, I'm taking care of myself, right? So my idea of responsibilities is like, I don't even know what they were, honestly. Like I paid my bills. I did everything a human should do. I kind of had a job, like, you know, I felt like I was being a decent human, but really it's like I'm selling drugs. I don't know where those drugs are. At that point, when you're selling that much, you don't know where it's going. You don't know who it's killing. You don't know who, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, you don't think about the consequences of what my one action could do to like, I take a step back. Like that could be my kid and when he's in high school doing these drugs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when you start to like, and that was at rehab, you know, you learn more about all the consequences, things like that. And I think when I got sober, I remember I tried to quit a lot. There were a lot of times I tried to quit and I couldn't, like, I wasn't ready, I guess. I don't know. And I remember one day a DJ friend of mine was like, literally like sniffing, like literally like looking on the floor for drugs in my apartment. And I'm like, he's like looked at me and he goes, I'm a drug addict. Like, I'm a fucking drug addict. Like, you know, this is what I do. And I was like, you're a drug addict? You know what I mean? Like, I can't put like that label, that name. I'm like, well, drug addicts like live out of their car, or homeless, or they don't, you know, they're all messed up. They can't pay. Like, I did not have any idea that I was a drug addict.
Right.
Like,
you didn't think of it labeled that way. Right.
No. And then, you know, I mean, when I ended up like quitting and checking myself into rehab, that's when I realized like,
was that all on you, Sam? Did you decide that on your own that you were going to go check yourself into rehab?
Well, I had my dog. I looked at my dog and I basically was like, I was like, what should I do? I think it's time. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I knew it was like, every day I'd say, okay, when I'm sick and tired, I'll be sick and tired and this will change. Until then, I just got to fucking stay alive.
Yeah.
And that's all I did. I was on pure survival mode. I knew, you know, okay, not all drug addicts live out of a car. Everybody's rock bottom is different.
Yeah.
So my rock bottom, I had money. I was paying my bills. I was DJing like these huge gigs. I was one of the top female DJs. Like,
no, I think that's a good tip, Sam, for anybody who's listening. Everybody's rock bottom is different, and trying to fit your rock bottom into somebody else's box of what their rock bottom is, you could have a totally different experience, but be at your rock bottom and then figure out how you're going to get out of that. Trying to make it fit somebody else's isn't probably a good plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was in a really toxic relationship. Like, I mean, if you meet me now, you would know that like, there's no way I would be in an abusive relationship, but I was literally tied down in this abusive relationship where, you know, if I tried to like hold my ground, the guy would literally start screaming I was a drug dealer or something outside the window. He was nuts. And I mean, I remember like there were times when I came home and he had tied my dog up. He would try to steal my dog to try to get me to like come back to him. He would steal my computer. It was so I was also like walking on eggshells and like I was just stuck. And I just had to grow some fucking balls one day and was like, I'm done. I was so scared that he would take my dog when I went to rehab. So I found someone who would take my dog. And my dog was
how long did you do the rehab?
30 days.
Yeah.
And then 30 days. And then I did just meetings, I think, after that. I didn't do any like aftercare with that until I moved home back to St. Louis. I think I did a little bit here. But I mean, I was so ready. I checked myself in. I was, thank you God, I was
probably
done.
Worn out.
I was done. I not even thought about doing meth since or any of that. I mean, I was doing a lot of club drugs, a lot of ecstasy, a lot of ketamine.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I've had my bouts a little bit with alcohol since, but you know, and smoking weed. But otherwise, I really haven't touched anything since then. Since 2006, April 19th, 2006.
That's incredible. I mean, that takes a lot of will, determination to have something that you feel like you're addicted to be able to basically set a new mindset to go down a different path, because you can always. I
just created a new addiction. What are you talking about?
Well, no, I mean, but isn't that the truth?
Addiction?
I mean, but isn't that the truth? I mean, you figure out, okay, I'm going to put all that into a whole different thing, and that becomes your addiction, which is great because those can be healthy addictions. You know, addiction is not bad if you find a good one that's healthy, because then you can.
I don't know. I try to do everything in balance, because then I just went and I became like a workoutaholic.
Yeah.
And I just I worked out like
that's what you do now, right? So
now I have a pretty good balance.
Okay, that's good.
I don't work out that much now.
Okay, so Sam, take me into your nightmare. What happened? How did it happen? What was going through your mind when it was happening? Because I think I understand that you were kind of getting away from everything, and then you get slammed down with a SWAT team that shows up and kicks in, and there you are.
So I probably have a couple worse nightmares, and it would be when I had the full raid. So basically, they were my guy who I got. So I was kind of probably third on the list here. So my guy got busted, and my ex,
the guy you were just talking about,
brought 11 gallons of GHB that were left, which is bullshit, basically tracked from my dealer's house to my house to try to find more people who he was dealing with, because they're really looking for one other person. And so they followed that, and I actually was going to look at a loft to move into in downtown LA, and I was walking out, and my ex was still sort of in this picture, like some of his shit was at my house. I mean, that's a lot of what they found. And I was walking out, and we were going to look at that, and I remember looking at a car that was in the driveway, and it was like this chick who looked like she looked like a hot kind of like off the beat lesbian, and I don't mean that in a bad way. And my best friend who lives in an apartment, she's like a major piece in Soul Cycle now. It's crazy. She really flourished. Mm-hmm. But she was my best friend. She was out of town, so I was like, why is this chick here? And there were two guys sitting on like the patio when I was walking out, and you have to have a key, like a code to get in. I was like, something is weird. It's like my gut knew, like I knew. And I got in my car and was waiting for my ex, and all of a sudden it was like shotguns and guns and everything everywhere. They yanked me out of the car. They put me down, face down on the grass, and screaming at me. And that's where all that happened.
Okay, so what were you thinking, Sam? Because that's a wild thing that only people, only real, like people see that stuff on TV and on movies, but it happened to you in an instant, and you kind of felt it, but then it happened to you. What's going through your mind?
In the moment, I like when I'm like face down on the ground, they were asking me so many questions. I was trying, what the fuck? They were just asking me about guns in the apartment, and they were asking me if there was anyone else in there. And then I heard them on the microphone or the walkie-talkie be like, "This dog is out of control. We need to get going on." And that's when I just started screaming, "Please, please, 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 take me in there. Let me get my dog. Let me get my dog. I'll put the leash on my dog, and then I can give my dog to the neighbor or something. Don't hurt my fucking dog. Please, please, please." And I remember them being like, it looks like she's got syringes in here. And it turned out they were like the printer cartridge, like refill syringes. And I'm like, I don't have syringes. And then I was like, and then they like realized what it was. So they did let me go. And then at that point, they let me go up there, and they had my ex like wait down the street. He was whining like a little fucking bitch. Like I just took it. Like I knew I deserved every bit of it. Like I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? Like, I can be a pussy and cry about it, or I fucked up.
Yeah. But you were probably scared.
Yeah, but I didn't like.
I mean, it had to be adrenaline going through your veins 1,000 miles an hour that this is all happening.
Oh, yeah. So, well, then they took me up there like totally like handcuffed down. I got down on my hands and knees and kind of got my dog. And then they put me on the porch. And I remember just thinking like, oh my God, like 2 weeks earlier, I was just saying like, I went to fucking Michigan. Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I need to stop doing this. And that's when I just like personally used and got rid of like all the stuff in my house for what my ex had. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. And I think I was just in shock. Honestly, I remember the guys just trying to have conversation with me, like, what the heck? Like, and I just like, I don't even know, like I fucked up. I was always, at that point, I was really open about it. My guy had been.
How old would you have been, Sam, at that time?
I was 26.
Okay. 26 years old.
And then I remember getting in the car with my ex to go to the Beverly Hills jail. And I remember he was like, these handcuffs are too tight. And he's like, I mean, just like a puss. Like, I was like.
You were done with him.
I'm like, oh my God.
You were done with him. You had been done with him. Yeah. Right? Now you were getting to see him in true form.
Man up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean.
Not good.
Seriously. And I was just shut my mouth. I was like, I did it. And then I remember they put me in there and they're like, your bail is $500,000. And that's when I was like, oh,
now it's real.
And I was like, I don't have that kind of money. And why is it so much? Like, I've never heard of just a drug thing being like, but it was because of the GHB. They had no idea how to even like do anything like that. And I just went into that little cement box, and it was like the darkest cement ever. It was like a sardine can. And I was like, like, I don't have the money. I'm not going to call my parents. I fucking did it. I'm going to sit here. I don't know what's happening. And I'm going to hope someone talks to me at some point. Like, I don't know. I just like lay down. And then I eventually, when someone like, I think they bought food, I was like, can I talk to someone, please? Like, and they basically wanted to know where another drug dealer was. It was my guy's girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I actually never met her. I mean, maybe in passing at a gig or something. But I knew nothing. I was like, I don't know her. I don't know anything. I can't, like, you guys got my guy. Like, I mean, my guy had been fully busted. He had 24 years. Like, it was, like, I wasn't snitching. Like, it was pretty well known.
That was already cooked. Right?
And I got lucky. Like, I didn't even get asked to snitch. Like, I mean, they asked me about her, but I didn't. That was that. And that was, like, the next little nightmare phase. And then the next nightmare phase was, later down the line when I, had to self-surrender into LA County. And then when I had to self-surrender into federal, which was actually not as scary as the LA County. I think I had enough practice at that point. And then, but I mean, when I moved home, I was back to Missouri, and I had a house and was getting ready. And when my lawyer, the next night was when my lawyer called me and told me I was looking at 22 to life. And I remember just like sobbing to that degree where like, it's, and just snot is just like bubbling out of your face, and tears are just like, it's like that ugly disgust. Like you can't
ugly cry. Yeah.
And I was in the shower, and you can't even, not even enough water will get the snot off your face. There's just so much shit coming out, and you're just like, I'm like tough. My parents had to come like literally pull me out of the shower, and like
How was this? I mean, how was this all going down with your family and you coming back, and you're basically being federally investigated?
Well, after I went to rehab, so I told them sort of everything after I got raided, kind of like sugar coated, like, oh, I got into the wrong crowd. I just happened to be there. It was my ex, whatever bullshit. I still wasn't ready to be honest with myself or them. Mm-hmm. But after I went into treatment, I told them everything. I told them everything. There were points where they were just like, oh, we don't even want to know. So I told them everything, and I basically said, my best decision is my worst, so take it away. And I did whatever they wanted. Mm-hmm. Got a job at Ann Taylor Law, they were super supportive through all of it because I got that job and then I got federally indicted. So they let me work there knowing I was going to prison, and then they gave me the job right when I got out. Literally the day I got out, I had a job set up.
Yeah. Wow.
My boss there was incredible. Yeah. And then I decided, I worked at Support Dog.
How long did it last, Sam, with you being told, you're being federally investigated to where you finally are dealing with a plea that you are realizing you're going to give yourself into the federal world?
I don't know. So I did the LA County thing, and I think that was 6 months, and I did the 28 days. When I came home, I got my probation transferred, I think within a month or two, which is like incredible. I came home, and I think I got indicted within a month or less of probably of being home. And I think the process was 6 months. I think they let us wait until after like the holiday. We went through the holidays. I'm pretty sure I got through the holidays, and then it was after that. I don't know the exact month. I should remember that. But it wasn't snowing, and it wasn't really, really cold. I bet it was like April or May.
Yeah. So
that's why I get sick. Maybe that's why I get sick every April and May.
Yeah.
Like my body knows.
So where do you? So you find out that they give you a deal or a plea. What was your plea?
So for my federal, I got 27 months, and I got money laundering with my charge. So I got the 21 counts removed. It was crazy. When I went to go find out my sentence, it was like 4 school districts were in the fucking courtroom. I was like, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
I was made an example, it can happen to any of you, which is fine. Now looking back, I hope one of those kids realized it can happen to anybody.
Sure.
I come from a good family. I'm not, and I did not get away with anything. My co-defendant got less time, and she didn't show up to court. She tested dirty. She didn't have a job. I mean, she screwed up the whole pretrial stuff, and I did not, and she got less time than me.
It's crazy how that happens, though. I mean, it happens over and over and over again of how it's not equal justice. It's whatever you get, and you can't even make sense of it because the justice system doesn't make any sense. So you try to figure it out, and there's no way to figure it out. You deal with your stuff and try to get through your own thing, and you just have to step over and around it and through it to get through it.
Oh my God. And for my dad to, for my mom was like the rock.
Yeah.
She had this shit. She helped us all.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking I'm not going to become cold. I'm not going to become shut down and emotionless. I 100% was.
Yeah.
I remember I got out, and I mean, I couldn't even love my dog. I couldn't even feel the emotion of my dog. I shut, whether you're emotional, but you're not. It's so weird. The ability to let yourself love something again has always been really hard for me since all of this, I've noticed. And, but my dad, I remember I got in trouble when I was in federal for my mom bringing in contraband contact lenses, which is stupid. So I could work harder at the $2 pennies an hour job that I had. I'm telling you, I am a workhorse. I worked my ass off when I was there, 2 pennies an hour. I loved my job. I loved everything I did. I got to drive fucking equipment around.
Well, let's talk about that, Sam, because you voluntarily.
Hold on.
Okay.
But my dad could not wrap his head around the fact that you don't have control of anything. He'd be like, well, this is the rule. This is what happens when you get a strike. You're supposed to go in front of the board. You're supposed to do this. Why is it 6 months that you lost all this? It's supposed to be. I'm like, dude, I have no control. You have no control. You have to let it go.
Yeah.
And if anyone is going in and is listening to this and trying to figure out what do you do? Just know it's not going to be anything that you think it is, and you got to just go with it. So if you're a control freak and you want to be able to you're going to learn how to not be one.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting because if you are a control freak, you can. People get institutionalized in prison because they try to control. I eat here, I sit here, I walk this certain time, I go here to go to work, all these different things, and they get into this really weird, bad, ugly routine to the point where some people get institutionalized where they get really afraid to get out because they get into these weird structured routines. And the really weird thing is what you just said, Sam, you don't have any control. At any given point, they can lock you down. At any given point, the whole day changes. Any given point, somebody screws up count and the whole place goes nuts and you don't know when you're getting out. But it's such a weird primitive environment that it is really hard for people to grasp what that feels like, because when you go in, which we haven't talked about yet, but I guess did you voluntarily surrender, Sam, when you went?
Yeah. And then they told me to come back. I was early or something.
Nobody does that.
Like,
I mean, my God, who shows up early?
Come back in 2 hours to get this little cafe in Greenville called Sam's Cafe, which is just like, add that to the thing. And it had like all these like weird little trinkets all over. And we ate like a BLT sandwich and came back. And then here we were.
That is so crazy. You showed up early.
I don't know that I did. Maybe I did.
They just weren't ready for you.
I probably did.
So what happened? Tell me about your first day going in.
So, you self-surrender, they take everything, they check you in, they search you. And I've been in LA County. I got searched literally 7 times a day.
Because
I was the only level of trustee that got to leave. So like for me, bending over and coughing was like part of my life at that point. And, they check you in. Federal, they're not assholes. County, they just got out of academy, or they're just trying to prove themselves. Like federal guards a lot of them aren't. A lot of them were great people. I swear, if I could still have relationships with some of them, some of my bosses were like the best people that I had, role models that I had. So
no, I agree. I think there's good and bad. I had a great boss at the food warehouse. Yeah.
Well, you got the warehouse as a fancy job.
I was fancy. Very fancy.
I walked out and I found my co-defendant. That's all I needed to do. I just asked around and...
What, your co-defendant was at the same place as you?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So that was my first thing. I found her, and basically I'm getting chills just thinking about it. And I remember I get what happened. We were in a shitty game. Like we were doing stupid shit. I know the whole story of how it happened, prior even to that. Like we had talked. She was scared. The feds lied to her. They did what they did. And so she tried to rat me out and set me up. But she thought I had already was doing it to her.
Right.
So I get it. It's just it's drugs. You can't get mad at anyone. We're all doing something fucked up. Mm-hmm. And I just remember looking at her, finding her, and her and I just gave each other the biggest fucking hug. And I was crying, and she was crying, and I was just I'm so glad you're here. I'm like, no shit. And she's a big black lesbian. I was good. I was good. I met all the right people. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I was good.
No, I mean, it's good to have people in prison that kind of speak for you and look out for you.
We hung out. Yeah. And eventually I had my own people, my own crowd. And I was at that point I was really by the book. I wanted to get in that drug treatment program. I was not breaking rules. I was living life for 110% by the rules. And if you told me to jump, I would jump.
What kind of job did you get in there when you were there?
What kind of trouble did I?
What kind of job did you get?
Oh, my God. I was in landscape.
Oh, okay.
So I'm licensed to drive. This is the best, once a guy knows that I was in prison, this is the best part. When I'm yeah, I'm licensed to drive a teeny boom, a backhoe, a road grinder, a bulldozer, a forklift. I mean, I literally, I was every day I'd be just teach me how to drive something else.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to put me in a backhoe. I was actually getting some mulch the other day watching the guy doing the backhoe. I'm he's so good at it. He's what are you watching? I'm I know how hard that is. I'm actually licensed to do it and I'm horrible at it.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And then I ran the garden. We had a massive garden that fed the camp, and we fed the minimum security and max prison that was next to it.
Yeah.
Max, I don't know where it was. And so I basically told him I drove lawnmowers growing up, and I did all this shit. So I got to do the big Batwing mowers that you see on the farm. I would put my headphones on and just drive that thing all day long, and I was in hog heaven. I was just, and I ran the garden. I was so into it. I mean, I worked so like physically hard. I can't even tell you.
Do you
And I
think,
love it.
do you think that, because people have different strategies when they go to prison, and some people completely shut down and don't do anything. I mean, they basically just give up. You see I think there's two different types of people in prison. There's the ones that you see that literally are laying there like in a fetal position and have given up. And then there's the people who just are doing whatever they can to keep themselves busy and trying to eat time because that's what they're going to do. Because they don't want to lose themselves. They want to keep being themselves. Do you think that was maybe one of your strategies?
Or there's just lazy, manipulative assholes that like just sit around and waste their minutes.
Because it sounds like you were really busy.
I think if I had a kid, I might have been a little bit in the fetal position. But I was lucky I didn't have a kid. It was exactly the life break I needed. At that point, like I was 26. I had no bills, no nothing. I went in and I was like, well, I'm going to work out as much as I can, which I did, like physically, like is insane how much I worked out.
Yeah.
And I am going to just like work my ass off and stay as busy as I can, so I can sleep. I had this like fear that I wouldn't be able to sleep. Well, I've never napped so much in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I've never slept so much in my entire life. It made up for the however many years I was doing math where I pretty much didn't sleep. But I mean, I can't take a nap if you paid me now. And it was like, I remember like just napping and reading books and then working every second I could and working out and just, I created structure. Like I would get up every morning. Yeah. When's count in the morning, like 4:30 or something. And then as soon as they'd be done with count, which is where they count all of us, I would go to the gym, I'd work out, I'd come back, I'd shower, I'd get my coffee with my Coffee Mate creamer and the microwaves that we all use. And everything was like the amount of toxicity now that I have from a microwave, I can only imagine. And then I'd go to work and I'd go to landscape and, my day was completely structured. And that's what I have to do in my life now.
Yeah.
And ever since I got sober, and it was like that before I got sober, when I was a rower, whenever, like I have to have
structure.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what environment you put me in. I've learned I could have nothing. I could have 2 outfits, but I will create structure out of whatever that environment is. I don't care. Like I did it when I was in rehab. I did it. Like, it's just how I've always been. Like I'm very structured. I'm very organized. The reason I got through Michigan is because it's not because I'm smart as hell. I have common sense. And I'm organized.
Yeah.
So I think common sense by far can trump a lot.
Oh, it can, especially if you use it right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I did get busted. I mean, I clearly wasn't that smart. But.
So, Sam, there's hard days in prison too. How did you tackle hard days? How did you get through a hard day in prison?
You cry in the shower.
Yeah.
Or, where at the camp the hard days, you have people you can talk to. I mean, they were all women going through the same shit, and you find your little niche. My cellmate or roommate or whatever you want to call it, she was like the one that I had for the longest. I mean, she was like my rock. I could talk to her about anything. So, I'd find someone and I talk to them, or I didn't really do a lot of like calling home and crying. I didn't call friends. I called friends just to be like, I miss you, just talk to them.
Make a connection.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember calling my ex. Because, you start working, you go through this drug program, you start working through like some deep emotional shit, like really hardcore stuff. And I remember like there were a couple times I'd call him and I'd be like, do you understand? Like, because I went to rehab. We weren't living together at this point, but when I ended up checking into rehab, the girl he was living with was a Korean prostitute, which is not even really part of the story, but she ended up trying to kill herself. And this is the day, I'm like maybe a week or 2 into rehab. I got a phone call and I called him and I was telling him like, you need to go to treatment. Like this is going to change your life forever. Like you're not okay. Like, and then he's like, well, I came home and she was done a bunch of drugs and I got her in the shower and she had shit and piss all over herself. And like, the girl was dead. And he's like, I got her heart beating again. Well, he never called the fucking 911, right? So this girl dies. And like, that was like, you realize it's like, those are the kind of things you just, like, I remember just having to process that. And that's kind of like what, like I'd call him and I'd be like, you get it? If you get it, like that could have been me. Like, it's like, you like, he just did so many fucked up things.
So it sounds like
I get angry.
yeah, but it sounds like, Sam, that you got a lot out of the drug program in prison.
Yeah. I mean, rehab, and any of that meetings.
Yeah.
That meetings. You know, I mean, I got out of, LA County. I had nothing but free time. So I'd hang out with the woman I live with, but then I created my meetings were my day.
Yeah.
Go to different meetings. And I remember one guy at a meeting one time was like, if I knew you were this little blonde girl in an apartment in LA selling all these drugs, I would have, when I was a drug addict, he's like, I would have come up and probably fucking killed your ass or robbed you.
Yeah.
It's like you hear shit like that and you're like,
wow.
I'm just like, I was like down in downtown LA in these warehouses and like Skid Row area. It's like,
yeah, dangerous things could happen. Yeah. But I think it's really good to hear, like, because I always think I'm going to get a different perspective, if a female and a male talk about prison, but really it's pretty much the same. And, it's cool how you went ahead, and I always felt good. Like, I got forklift certified, learned how to drive this big truck and all these other things. It kind of makes you feel good when you're doing something in a bad environment, but you feel like you're learning something new. Like, you're not, today wasn't a waste. Today maybe was a win. I did something that I didn't know I could do. I probably would never have done it if I wasn't here. So I did something. I can say that it wasn't a waste. I didn't waste the day. I was always worried about becoming a waste. Just, I've got to use this. I got to somehow use this time, make it work. But it sounds like your day sounds so similar to mine, because I was so about working out. I was so about working, trying to stay busy, so about reading, just trying to keep my mind active. So I was worn out at the end of the day, because they turn the lights off at 10 o'clock. It's time. It was like little kids. Lights are off.
Like 8 o'clock every night or 7.
Yeah. Lights are off. You're done. Yeah. And I would read some too at night, because I was used to watching TV. I grew up watching TV, going to sleep. And so I had no TV. So I read, which was good. It's a lot better than watching TV.
Oh, I read so many books. I've never been able to read in my life. Like, never. Like, I couldn't well, I mean, I guess if I was doing math, I took some Adderall or something, I could, but I could never focus long enough. Well, I'll tell you, in prison,
you found time. Yeah.
I don't know. I read so many books.
And I think too, Sam, it's a real escape. You read a good book, you feel like you're transported away from this bad place.
And my mom, kudos to her, would send me like the best, most legit books. I was like the go-to girl for the books. So like, I still have some of them. Like, I kept some of the best ones, and you open it up and you'll see the list of everybody's names, because you'll do a wait list. Everybody's like, well, I want to read that book. Like, when I got Oranges and Black, everybody signed that book. And it was like, everybody was like going to read that.
So your parents ended up to be supportive and great out of this whole thing, which I think is big. I mean, you want that. A lot of people, gosh, there were so many people that I was around that they lost everything. I mean, of course they lost their businesses and their money and everything else, but to see somebody losing their families, and just doing this all on their own, always was like, man, I had a lot of gratitude for the fact that didn't happen to me, but I saw a lot of people that did happen to, and I think the time's different that way too.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that experience, even though all that happened, your mom was a rock and everybody kind of came around and supported, and I think that's good. So tell me, Sam, so you go through this whole thing, you're 2 or 3 months from getting out. What's going through your mind? You're 2 or 3 months from the door.
Oh, I try
Freedom.
not to think about it. I try not to think about it.
So just blocked it out.
Like, those people who like count the days, like, what the I think I counted periods, like my period.
I didn't do that.
And I like barely got a period when I was there, I think. But like, I think I'd be like, okay, well, because that seemed like the most rational. Like, oh my God, just like 2 more periods and I'm out.
Yeah, cool. See, I didn't. That is something different between you and I.
There
I didn't count my time that way.
Right. And then, so as I got closer, I think, I just was excited to put like normal, like what's my out? Like, I remember that you get to see your outfit that your family sends in.
That's so exciting.
Oh God. I mean, it was like the Target black, like sweatpants, but it's not like your grays or your greens.
Right.
I remember, like, and then you're like, who am I going to give all my stuff to? Like, you have all this shit that you
That's a big deal, though.
Oh, it is. Like, because I had like really good sweatpants and like, and so like, who are you going to give all your grays to? And then what am I going to do for that time before I have to go to the halfway house? Like, I remember I met my parents my parents showed up with my dog.
Oh, that's
so
great.
I'm walking out and my dog's out in the parking lot, like running around. And my dog was my dog was the witness to all the shit that I went through. Yeah. Nobody else saw. Yeah. My dog saw it all. Everything. Went through it all. And I mean, I just like,
broke down.
Oh my God. So excited to see my dog. And then I wanted bread company bagels. And I mean, I don't know. I just, I try to not really talk about it because, there's other people not getting out. Like you can get excited in front of certain people, but if you get excited in front of other people, then you'll get shit. They'll give you heat. Like, so you just kind of keep your head down. You don't act excited, but you're like fucking, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what, you learn. Yeah. You learn that. You learn who you can be open to and have conversations with, and then other people, you close up and, you're nice, but you're not sharing everything with everybody in prison.
Yeah. But the thing is, you're also not done. Like I was getting out, but I wasn't really getting out. Like where I went was worse.
Yeah. And I think that's
I almost should have finished my time there.
Yeah.
Because I got out and I was at this halfway house in downtown St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I was with the state halfway house. So we're blended with federal and state. So it's just a shit show of people. It's disgusting. I was really lucky. Like I had the job set up, so I was able to leave really quickly. I had my old car. Like I got my car back, so then I ended up getting a car pretty quickly. But like you're there for a minute before you can even do any of that. And I remember all you can do is go outside and like you get an hour, every hour you can go out and like have a cigarette or something. So I started smoking again. It was just
it was more locked. It's more locked down and more horrible than anything that I experienced in prison. And I think that's an interesting point too, Sam, because you have this feeling like you've never had in your life getting out. My family was right there and we hugged and we couldn't believe it. And we felt so accomplished that we'd gotten through it all. And we rushed out of that parking lot. And then your mind starts thinking, oh man, I got to go to this. I got to go. I got to go to this place. It's going to be really bad. I've heard all about it. It's going to be terrible. And then you're there and then it's worse than where you went. It's a weird thing.
It was pretty bad, but I got out of there. I got that common sense. So I got myself a job at Anti-Loft. I got myself a job at Support Dogs, which is the dog program that was in the prison. So I got connected with them, and I was one of the girls. And I was like, listen, I'll come I'll watch the kennel. So at night I watched the kennels.
Yeah. And
then during the day I worked at Anti-Loft. And then I basically told them that because I missed working out, and I was like, I have to find a way to like get this into here. And I remember talking to a guy at a gym where my parents were training. And I told them that I was going there for, educational purposes to become a certified personal trainer. So I basically signed up to get certified as a personal trainer. So I would do that when I was at Support Dogs. I would work on that. And then I would go, so when I would go to, study, I would just go to the gym and work out with them, but I was, learning how to train people. So as long as I called and did all that, so I would be gone. But once I got my structure, I'd be gone all day. So I'd go from one thing to one thing, and my parents would drive me, or I'd take the metro, or I would, I eventually got my car, and then I got certified, and then you go to your house on house arrest. And by then, oh God, remember taking a shower without flip-flops. Oh, fuck.
I had a really weird thing, Sam, where I wore the flip-flops. I know. I wore the flip-flops into the bathroom, and Julie, my wife, says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." I didn't realize it was so weird because I love taking a shower. She says, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. Oh, that first shower, I think I was in the shower, just like, awesome. And then a bath. And then to be submerged in water, I was like, I was a swimmer my whole life. I was like, God, I cannot wait to just be like submerged in water.
Isn't it funny though? So little things like that, people are like, wow, what's it feel like being out? I like taking a shower without flip-flops. What?
Yeah, right. And then I didn't have to wear the underwear that like like literally like rolled up, like, I mean, like granny underwear, right? And I would just like roll. I don't even know.
Well, okay, so you get through all that and you get certified trainer, you get it. I mean, what I really love about your story is that, man, you get knocked down, Sam, and you just get up and you keep stepping. And, you know, getting out of prison is not easy. It's not easy because you have so many.
Getting a job with a felon.
It's just like somebody tattooed it on your forehead. But you went through all that and you got yourself a job, and then you worked basically 2 jobs to get the certified deal going. I mean, that's so fantastic that you channeled all that energy and made all that happen. So doing all that, what are you doing now? Because I know I see you on CFIT Living and you've got all these followers. It looks like you've got your life in the go zone. What is Sam doing now?
That's social media, sweetie. Okay.
I know.
We all know that.
I'm so jealous. I'm like the old man looking at, wow, how did all these people get these followers?
Doing so much work. So yeah,
I feel like I'm 85 years old when I look at that.
I know. Well, it's a whole nother job. It's like I have like 10 jobs just because of social media. So I got out. Actually, with the personal training, I started just with the personal training, and within my second year, I was making 6 figures.
That's great.
And I was like, I'm buying a house. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to buy a house probably in the next year. And that's what's going to happen. And that's exactly what I did. And then I was really sick. So, you know, I was one of those people who was at the gym. I worked out. I ate perfect. And I was really sick. My hormones were jacked up. My stomach was jacked up. I could not lose weight. I kept gaining weight. I was puffy. I felt like I was in someone else's body. In prison, I had like horrible cystic acne, which I've never had to visit in my life. Like, so I was not well. And it turned out I had like, my hormones were off. My adrenals were off. I had tons of food sensitivities. I had parasites. And I went to all the doctors under the sun, and I finally ended up with like a functional practitioner, and that changed my life. So then I got certified basically to be a functional diagnostic nutritionist. So it's sort of like functional medicine. So I run functional labs to find the underlying like root causes of people's, you know, symptoms or health problems. And then without band-aiding it with a bunch of medication, we fix it. So
that's interesting. It's almost like a doctor, holistic doctor. In a way.
Yeah, I just don't have an MD. My dad wishes.
Yeah.
But
you came through a personal experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was sick. I was sick. That's how I know how to do everything I do. Like I've been through it. I still go through it. I still have to run labs on myself. I still have, you know, periods of time where I get sick again. I just know how to fix it.
So Sam, how does that work though? Like, do you go to people's homes and meet with them? Do they come see you? Do you have a place that you go? Like, how does this work?
It's nationwide.
Yeah.
So during COVID, I kind of like pulled away from the personal training, and I was like, this isn't going to work with COVID. Like, so I just sunk a lot of money into my functional, my functional nutrition business, and I automated it and started doing campaigns and programs and challenges. And so if people don't know what automation is, like all those emails that you get people harassing you, it's basically, I'm not sending you an email every time. It's like a system runs it all. Mm-hmm. So I can take on a ton of people. And that's just been sort of my priority now is my personal training. I have some clients, but not a ton. I'm very small amount of hours. I'll take on one-on-ones for sure, because that's easier to schedule. And you know, I was ready for a change. I needed to like really stimulate my brain. So now that's what I do. So they work with me, they set up a discovery call. So I do a free 45-minute discovery call, and we talk all about their health from the day they were born. And I find out as much as I possibly can about their health history, and basically tell them how I feel I can help them. And if I feel like it's a good match or not. If they aren't a level 10 committed, I won't work with them. And that's sort of what I'm doing right now. And yeah, I'm all over Instagram.
Yeah, you are. Tell us, Sam, how does somebody get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of Sam?
Instagram is CFIT Living. So, but it's Living. It's
yeah.
not. It's
See Fit Living, all one word.
Yeah. And not a C. And then I'm on www.cfitpt.com, as in like SEEFITPT.com. And then I'm on Samantha Lander on Facebook, CFIT on Facebook. I'm all over.
Yeah, no, you got it going on. I told you you're going to have to help me because you got to help. You got to help me because I need help on that. I don't know what I'm doing.
I do. Yeah, I have an IG live on bi-weekly on Tuesdays. But yeah, it is. Instagram's a whole other job. Or social media. It's a lot of work, but it pays off.
Sam, I'm fascinated by how you've done all this. What would you say after going through all that you've been through? I mean, you could write a book, you could have a podcast, you could do all this stuff. What's your biggest takeaway from what you have experienced? To impart to the audience.
Oh my God. My biggest takeaway? Well, I think that, for me, I'm kind of like humble when it comes to like talking about myself, but I'm strong as fuck. Like, I know I've been through shit, like even just stuff I put my own self through, and I have a lot of experience in a lot of areas. And I know that even if I met someone on the street, I could probably have like the amount of empathy I can have towards someone's situation, I think is really important when it comes to meeting people and knowing people. So, I've gone through infertility. I've been through divorce. I'm a single mom. I've been in prison. I've been an addict. I've had every freaking gut related sickness. I've had, mold toxicity. I've had metal toxicity. I've been through it. So I think, my biggest takeaway is I've had all these experiences. And so I have this great little bucket that I can use to help others, and make it part of my livelihood.
Yeah. Well, you're not, I think from everything that you just said, you're not, even if something scares you, you're willing to step into it. And that's a big deal. A lot of people get stuck on that one. If it scares them or they feel it's out of their comfort zone, they'll refuse to step into it. And what I see from you, which is so interesting because it's not common, is that you have every single life stage been able to be knocked sideways but step back in. And that's, as long as you keep stepping, you can get to where you want to go. And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. The mom part's hard for me.
Mom part? Oh, we haven't even talked about that.
Oh, well, it's hard. I'll just tell you that. It's fucking hard as hell. It's probably one of the hardest. Infertility, going through the infertility treatment was harder than prison. Yeah. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
100%. And being a mom is really, really hard. I wouldn't say I'm a bad mom, but it's just hard for me. I had finally had an epiphany one day, and I was like, okay, if I'm working and making money, I'm a better mom. And that doesn't make me a bad mom. I'm just not a stay-at-home mom, and I'm not a very mommy mom. So I can have him go to a nanny and do his thing, and I'll do my mom time, but I will make money, and I'll be a better mom.
Yeah.
If I'm can't run my business and I'm trying to take care of it, it's just.
How old is he?
He's 5.
He's 5. Wow, that's an active age.
Dude. I knew he was so good. He was so good. He's still the sweetest little thing in the world. But, there's a lot of me in this kid. And I was kind of hoping there wouldn't be much.
No, he'll be driven. Sam, you've got so many good qualities that people hope to have, because if you have those qualities, you can really make things happen. And what you're doing is you're using your experience to help others, and using those experiences, you have a lot of different experiences, so you can relate on a lot of different levels, which is effective, very effective. Sam, anything I didn't ask you?
I don't know.
You've done really good. So I hope.
I have a lot I can talk about.
All right, Sam. I really appreciate you being on. It's fun having females on because, your story, there's everybody's story of going to prison and living the life before prison, in prison, out of prison. They're different, but it's always interesting to get the female perspective. So I appreciate you coming on and doing that, because I think people can take away nuggets of things that you talked about today and incorporate it into whatever dark patch you get into. There's things you can take away. For everybody, loving the likes and subscriptions. If you feel like it, leave a review on Apple or Spotify. My book, Nightmare Success, if you haven't gotten it or you need a book, Nightmare Success. We're on YouTube. We're going to see Sam on YouTube. This is filming right here.
This is my first actual video podcast. I've been on so many podcasts. And I love it because I don't have to I was like, I just had to schedule in and getting a shower today. I was like, I'm going to shower.
Sam asked me if she needed a shower. I said, yeah, you're going to be on TV. It's on YouTube. You look great, Sam. Sam, thanks so much. It's been great talking to you today. Nightmare Success in and out, everybody. Thanks for being here.